Hi, and welcome to Second Rate DMs. Today we're going to talk to Ivan Van Norman, creator of Outbreak Undead, producer, entrepreneur, all-around king of the nerds. Let's see what he's got to say. Ivan Van Norman, who the hell are you?
I am a human being who just had laser eye surgery and now is sitting in front of a camera hoping to block you from the devastating rays of my eye beams. That's what I'm hoping to do.
I'm sure the green screen's really bright too.
Right. If I'm doing this for your safety and for my safety so that no one is harmed through future vision, which I have been granted thanks to this amazing technology that we have called the future. It's so hard. It's like whenever people ask you what do you do, you feel like you've got to sum up the work that you do in like an acronym or like a single sentence structure that makes sense to everyone and yet not.
It's difficult to do. Yeah.
It's not easy. You know, it's like you're a podcast host, but you're probably also several other things as well too. And you know, as much as I'd like to say that I've specialized as much in the board gaming and role-playing game space, you know, I feel like I've touched on so many different things in there that it's just I like board games is probably the most accurate description at this point.
Fair enough. We all do.
Yeah,
but you like it a lot.
I'm a host. I'm a media producer. I'm a publishing branch. I have a publishing company. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a dad. I am a designer. And occasionally I get in front of the camera and make a fool of myself. So, you know, that's pretty accurate, I would say. All those things aren't wrong.
I mean, you are king of the nerds, right? I mean, that's...
yes, and the sweet, sweet princely title of which I hold. I still consider myself last man standing.
Did they give you a crown or something like that?
I got my girlfriend got me a little inflatable crown when I got home, even though I lost. It's very sweet of her, but I got nothing of the sort. I barely got paid for that show. So.
Everybody on that show was a king or queen of the nerds. I mean, it was the best representation of our kind, I think.
That first season was really special. You know, I was really happy to be part of the first season. Kind of those kids moving forward. It's still haven't really seen anything like it that's made an impact the way that some of the other shows that have preceding it have done. So I'm still really proud of that team.
Yeah, absolutely. I met you a few years ago at Gen Con, and I was thinking about it, and I said in our review of the game, like, I got this book like 3 years ago. My wife's like, no, it was like 5. I'm like, oh crap, it's been that long. that we purchased that game, and you know, we met you, and you're out there like slinging your print, you know, trying to get your name out there,
get my book.
Yes,
buy my book.
And that's exactly how you did it too. Like, he was very like, please buy this book from me. You know, I'm just this humble guy, and you know, we went back and we looked at, like, you know, who you were and what you were doing, and I hadn't talked to you in a long time, and then I looked you up before I asked you to do this interview. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's been busy. I mean, he's been doing all kinds of stuff. You know, doing things with wizards, and you know, obviously hunters. And you know, putting out your own books, and then you've got another game that's being kickstarted, look like a sci-fi game.
Yeah. So we the two that are out right now are that's delivering pretty soon is Kids on Bikes.
Okay.
Which is Jonathan Gilmour, Doug Lodavansky's Strange Adventures in Small Towns RPG. It's very storytelling light. It's very cute. You basically build your small town with your rumors, and then you shove kids, adults, and teens inside of it, and you go on grand adventures. Yeah. And then second edition of Outbreak is printed. The Game Master's Guide is being worked on right now, but we're doing all the tokens and ancillaries, and all that stuff's being come out. There's a show for it right now on Geek and Sundry called We're Alive Frontier. Mm-hmm. It is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie survival horror live play RPG show with tons of immersion and a giant, beautiful table and a bunch of really well-known actors who are all, you know, on the show. It's pretty. It's this new thing that people are kind of doing with the theatrical drama reality role-playing games, or, you know, TDRPG. That's the crappy little acronym I've come up for it.
Okay, you came up with it. I don't know if it was like an industry term that like none of us knew about. Like
This is a thing?
Yeah, no, it's a thing that no, I can't.
theatrical table. I don't even know what you said, but it sounded very complicated, and it sounded like something that some
Yeah.
producer would come up with.
Well, it started with Sagas because it's so hard to describe what Sagas of Sundry is.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of that at all yet?
I have admitted this to very few people, but I don't like watching other people play games. Like
That's fair.
I run games, I play games, watching them, like I want to put a bullet in my head. And it has nothing to do with the people playing, it's just that I want to play. I would want to be in that game.
And that is an absolutely valid thing. You know, it's actually perfectly. I have a hard time participating in that kind of software as well too. Mostly because I hate watching myself over and over again. That's usually what it is. But no, trust me, it is definitely one of those things where it is cut a certain type of viewer out there, and it's not for everybody. So
No,
the reason Sagas is so unique, at least, is because we tried to make it more like a TV show that actually has real choice elements, decision, success and failure points.
Okay.
Rather it be like a bunch of people at a table.
okay. That sounds...
Sagas uses the Dread system. Are you familiar with Dread?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, imagine like a backyard garden Jenga, the giant ones, and
Yes.
it's made to look all nice, but we put it on a very nice, expensive-looking set, and we put the actors into full costume, and we basically play a game of Dread where we incorporate skill challenges, and we ask them to make difficult choices, but we do it on this giant Jenga set. The cameras can cover it really well. It naturally builds tension, and it almost feels like a TV show with stakes, where the audience is literally going on the exact same journey that the characters are on, because none of it's scripted, as we all know with role-playing games. You never know what's going to happen.
Make your pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Make a pull. So
I mean, you brought that up, so we'll just go ahead and move on. We're talking about, I think some of the things that people may have seen even recently is the Stream of Many Eyes that came on a couple weeks ago. And I really wanted to ask you, before we ask about preparation, why did you choose Dread to run at like a Wizards of the Coast kind of event?
Well, we didn't run Dread on Stream of Many Eyes. It was still Dungeons and Dragons. It was just the version of it was basically drummed down to dice rolls.
Okay.
Dice rolls and a couple of ability tokens. So I had a deck of tarot cards that were that had two sets of numbers 1 through 20. So they still use the standard like perception check, athletics check, knowledge arcana, knowledge nature. They were still making these kind of standard checks, but they were using it from a deck of cards. So when they were instead of rolling a dice, because it's not very nice to look at dice rolling when people are up and moving. Anyone who's played a LARP can tell you that. Yeah. We had this cool deck of cards that people basically drew their die results from, and it worked a little better because camera could capture the action, and it's very easy to hold a card up to the camera. And it worked well. And then to kind of represent these abilities or powers that these characters could have, we had these one-time burnable abilities that were in the form of these bennies, these tokens that they gave me, in order to say, hey, I'm gonna burn my ability right now. I have an edict memory, and I want to remember something that came up a couple of episodes ago, and I'm gonna do that. So they'd hand me the token, and then they'd burn their ability. So it's a lot of stuff that LARP people have been doing for a long time, but it's very different from a LARP because in a LARP, everyone has their individual story, and everyone is the hero of their story. And it's kind of the unsung rule that while you are telling your own story, you are helping telling someone else's. Correct. So everyone plays together, right? In this, it's still very much a kind of TV show or movie structure where it's like, this is the core cast. These are the actors. And they're all telling a story together, and everything around it is supporting that story. You know? So it's a little different, and it's very different because lots of different things can be happening in a LARP, and then that the moments are coming out later, either in a live element, like in a big group, or through hearsay, through stories told later. This we're all trying to capture on camera as well too. So
it's very hard. It's very difficult to
challenge.
do.
Yep.
So how did the preparation go for that?
Well, Wizards had a lot of parameters
I bet.
because this is an event that was supposed to promote their Waterdeep books,
Right.
you know. So they wanted, very specific people to be featured, very specific villains to be highlighted and showcased, and they wanted an episode structure that was going to be that was going to carry through. Stream of Annihilation was fun, but having every these little individual stories, it was a little confusing. I pitched to them this idea of basically having Stream of Many Eyes be more like an episode of 24, where it's like every episode is chronological and like this happens and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens, and a lot of the effects of the previous games will affect future episodes. So there was a lot of particular benefits, and I co-wrote the event with Elisa Tige, he has designed tons of live events for Wizards and for other clients in the past. She's previous with Loan Shark.
Okay.
But she really was super insightful in being able to provide benefits and deterrents for previous games. Like, okay, we can plant clues in this episode which will either pay off here in later episodes or not. The various puzzles and skills that were in the various episodes all kind of lent to each other. Like in the if they didn't get this clue in one of the episodes, well, they're not going to have that clue for when they come into this episode. Or since there was 7 games that went on throughout Saturday, and 4 of them were traditional on the table, we tried to put some of them in those as well too. Like if they got a puzzle answer off the table, then we wanted to make sure that if a puzzle was solved in the on the table game with one of the groups, we wanted to make sure that the off the table players, are get up and move them guys, were going to be either rewarded for that, or we're going to be docked for it. So there's a lot of planning. It was a lot of a big fat long text document with all of its key players. And the GMs were delighted that I sent them a 1 to 2 page prompt for their game, and I said, here's basically what's going on in your game. This happens, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, and this needs to happen. But other than that, it's up to you.
So were you behind more than just your game? Were you behind the whole?
I co-wrote the entire
Jesus, man.
Saturday storyline with Elisa Tige. Yes.
Well, that's incredible, Ivan. That is awesome. Like I said, I didn't realize that, like I said, I did a little bit of research where you've been doing the things that you've been doing since that we last spoken, but that's tremendous. I mean, not only is that tremendous, it's a lot of work.
Super public knowledge. We did a little bit of press for that, but really that was just the job that Greg Tito, who's the marketing guy over at Wizards, he asked me and Elisa to put. Originally, he asked me to put together the games and Elisa to do the puzzles, but Elisa and I worked so well together that it ended up just being a co-writing situation. We were both just putting this stuff on paper, and it was killing it. So
wow, just kind of flew together.
It flew together. Yeah, we had a couple of sit-down brainstorming storytelling sessions, and we just hammered it out, man. It was good. And then it was mostly about just trying to make sure that those events are communicated to the GM, because again, these are all so many working pieces. Even on our off-the-table sessions, we had NPCs who were given orders. So basically saying, hey, if you have information to give the PCs, give it to them. But if they keep trying to go down the rabbit hole, it's your job to say, look, I don't have any more information, but do it in a very in-world way.
Right. Yeah, it's Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
I was gonna say, we were talking briefly before about LARP writing. It sounds very similar in that you have your different GMs that co-run that particular event, because you are dealing with large numbers of people, and so they each have their own pieces of information, and then all the players have their own pieces of information. And the game, you write the game just like that. You come together and you spitball ideas back and forth, and you write what's going to happen within usually a 4-hour game for a LARP.
Yep.
It's what you schedule for. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer than that, but yeah, I mean that's incredible. But to have that filmed and put out there, and I mean hundreds of thousands of people.
It's just about taking that, taking that experience and then just making it presentable on a 2D format that people can play with and participate in. So they wrote Elisa also did the ARG with another gentleman, Emmett, and that whole like puzzle that was leading up to the event, to the people who were solving those ARG puzzles were generating benefits for the people who are off the table as well too, like giving them bennies if they pulled them from the deck throughout the day, you know. So they actually, people who were just solving puzzles were giving rewards to these players. It was super fun. Lots of people got to participate, whether they were doing it indirectly or just directly during the show. So it was good work. I was really happy with that it came out, but it definitely had its stresses. It felt a lot like, you know, running like a CBS or you know, old style telethon, where it's like, all right, actors to stage, you got 5 minutes, let's get everybody mic'd up, let's, you know, prep out, we're coming to you in 10, 9, like just calling it out like it was a legit TV show.
I've worked a telethon; those are hell. So if it's anything like that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all day. Although the director and the director who was managing the day, as well as the technical director who was in the wow, I'm having a hard time recalling words right now.
All right.
The tech bay where all the monitors are, where they call the actual shots. It's basically where all the streaming software is. Like, there's someone literally watching a live feed and saying go to which camera.
It's like a control room. Yeah.
Control room. That's the word I was looking
for. There you go.
That's the one.
Thank you. The technical director in the control room, as well as the stage manager and the director who was on stage, they did an amazing job. They managed a whole lot of cosplayers and a whole lot of me in order to make sure that the day ran really well. So
and the whole thing was live, so
effort.
that's insane.
Did you like it?
What little bit I saw, again, like I said, I don't really watch a whole lot of live streams, and a lot of it was during hours that I wasn't able to watch it live. So I've caught bits and pieces of it once they put it up on YouTube.
On the VODs, yeah, which is smart for them because it's a giant marketing.
Yes.
It's a giant, and it got me excited. Got a lot of people excited about Waterdeep, so I think it did a job.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. What do you think, man? Were you get the next one?
Where are we at here?
Wizards.
Wizards.
Wizards and cows.
You doing okay, man? You all right?
I'm doing
Did you eat
fine.
a brownie before this?
No.
We mentioned that, like, as you walked away, like with your shades, like he looks like he might be hungover.
Looks like he had a rough night.
Oh, well, yeah.
I know it's the glasses, but
yeah, but I wish it was for fun things. So
that was my Saturday. Bad. So what is it like to be part of the Wizards of the Coast community of GMs and gamers?
I don't know. I mean, I get to tell stories. That's fun, you know. Most of the people who are the community of GMs and players, I knew them all before they were Wizards community. I mean, Satine, she's been in several of my shows, and now she's the legit community manager for Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you know, Mercer and all them I met at charity events, just running D&D when, you know, people were like, oh, well, let's put a camera in front of it. That should be fun. But it's been really cool watching my friends who all have done this with some moderate of success or some, you know, scalability of success, to kind of see them explode and continue to do a lot of these crazy things. So I guess I'm humbled and honored to be able to continue to do it, and theoretically even call it a career. That's weird. But it's honestly cool.
Awesome in the same, yeah.
It's totally awesome. But to say, but then but really, I just like seeing them all succeed, and it's nice to see Wizards like just knock it out of the park with their marketing and with 5e. And,
Definitely.
I won't bore you with some of the financial statistics I've been reading in the last year or so.
I'm actually curious. I mean, if you know them off the top of your head.
One of the things that I've enjoyed is that they since Hasbro's a publicly traded company, they have to post their fiscal reports every quarter and every year into a big report. So they have to post it every quarter. They have to post it every year. So what happened is I went through this, and for 2017, the Hasbro gaming category, which includes companies like Wizards inside of it, actually had a 17% loss in total revenue in 2017. compared to 2016. However, that differential was made up for by two specific games. So, and those two games were Dungeons and Dragons and Jenga.
What?
Jenga of all things, right?
I thought you say Magic. I'm like, well, little.
No, Magic had a hard year. So you may first say that like, oh wow, 17, a loss. That's terrible. But what that says to me is that Dungeons and Dragons and Jenga alone have made up 17% of Hasbro Gaming's total revenue. Okay, just those two games. That is insane.
That is insane. They've done wonders. They've really, I don't know what exactly they've done with the system. I don't know if it's their game or if it's shows like yours and Matt Mercer's and really Critical Role and Saver Dice and all these people that have come forward with that technical term that you came up with and that have really brought people out and feel more comfortable about gaming. Because to me the system doesn't seem that different, but I'm an older player.
It's the perfect time. Like you could say that this is lightning in a bottle right now because it's perfect. The theory that I have around it, and it is just a theory, is that we are so saturated by scripted media, and we are so saturated. We have so much choice in the type of stories that we want to consume, that the natural position that a lot of us go to is that we want to make our own, because we're so tired of someone else telling us a story that we want to tell our own, to the point of where you even brought up yourself. It's like, I don't want to hear other people playing games. I want to run my own game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that way. They're tired of being told to, and they want to tell. And so this is kind of the right time for role-playing games to explode, because we at first had to go to the movies in order to get our entertainment. And then the entertainment came to us at home.
Yes.
And now we're doing the natural progression of what we're telling our own stories, and we're putting it out there into the world. So and the thing, really, just what these shows are doing, like all of the ones, is that Sagas and Critical Role and Dice Camera Action and Dark and Dicey and all these podcasts and all these TDRPGs, all they're really doing is they're showing people that you can do it.
Yeah.
And they're inspiring people to do it. While they are still entertaining, really, they're just getting people to want to play. And they're showing that it is not too hard and that it is 100% possible. So,
It's really easy to get into gaming, and I've always found that if people just give it a shot, I can't think of very many people that if they gave it a shot, were just like, no, I don't like this.
No,
maybe one, maybe one or two in my entire life. Can I be like, they just didn't care for it?
There are some times that there are, like with everything else, there will be some people who have a bad first time. But that comes with anything.
Yeah.
You can't have a 100% win rate on it all. But most of the time, people who get into it legitimately love it.
Oh yeah.
That's very rare for most hobbies.
Well, I think a lot of those bad experiences come from probably from the social aspects. Maybe the bad player, maybe a bad players you're playing with, or a bad GM. Bad experience in a store or convention, those kinds of things. But I think people, once they realize that they can, like, oh man, I can be like a wizard that shoots lightning balls and ride a dinosaur. Like, yeah, man, go for it.
Sign me up.
Also, they can create their own fun as well too. And most of the times, if they're willing to go to that extra mile to create the social element of it all, they can create the people they want to be around with as well too.
Absolutely.
So just because your current group, you don't feel like you're connecting with them, or you don't like some of the people in it, it's like, that is why there are more people in this world.
Yeah. Actually, in today's episode that I think just went up like 30 minutes ago, I used the term that gaming is not a monogamous relationship. And it shouldn't be.
No.
Like, the more people that you play with, the more GMs that you like either play under or play over, one or the other. Like, you just learn so much and different gaming styles, and if you've never played, Outbreak, for example, there's things that you can pull from it into your own games, any game, and mix and match. And that is probably the only thing that I've seen with the rise of all of the D&D right now, is that a lot of people seem to be afraid to branch out just a little bit, to try something just a little bit different.
That is the one byproduct of having big successes like, Dice Camera Action and Critical Role is that it can be a little intimidating when you see people who do it professionally, and who have built a career out of it. And I think meaning the people who do these shows, are very good about reminding people like, hey, we're just people playing games. But, it is natural for people to be a little intimidated. And all we can do is just say, don't. Just go and have fun. Just don't even worry about it. And if you really like Dungeons and Dragons, but your brain is saying, oh my God, I'm really looking for a post-apocalyptic, thing, then know that there is a system out there for you. And as hard as it was to get into D&D, it's probably just as hard or just as easy to get. I say that not metaphorically, but like I say that with a little bit of a cheekiness to it.
Yeah.
It's like, if it wasn't hard for you to get into D&D, it is not hard for you to discover another system.
Sure.
As well too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that if you look, I don't know if you get into like forums or Reddit or Twitter, yeah, that's fine. That's like your whole job.
Been kind to me.
Yeah, I heard that the other day, and I tried to find what that was about, and I couldn't find it. But Reddit hasn't been great to us either. But I think you have to like live there. If you don't live there, they don't like you.
Reddit's a unique beast, and that's fine because they are their own community. So,
but a lot of the topics there are talking about adding complexity to like Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, or how do I make a zombie game for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? I'm gonna do this and do that and add this and do that, and I've got like there are games for this. Here's like 5 different games, so you don't even have to do all that work, or. The amount of work that you do to convert a system into what you want, you probably could have learned the new system and run it. Because a lot of these, especially games nowadays, are trying so much more to be pick up and play than they've ever been. Like gone are kind of the crunchy glory days of GURPS or Palladium, and now we're looking at games that are much more like Fate Core. Even Eclipse Phase, which was a wonderful game in its design and its world building, has made its rules a lot more accessible in its 2nd edition. Yeah, so, I agree. Pathfinder 2nd edition right now, what they're releasing is looking like it's even smoothing out a little bit. I mean, they're still keeping their roots of customization, but it sounds like they're taking some things down a notch and making it a little bit more accessible. And it looks,
because there's a lot to compete with now. And
there is,
to be honest. And one of the things that we being in the publishing business, we've learned is that that role-playing games, people tend to have a system they love, and there's a very finite amount of people who are willing to explore outside of that system that they love. But at the same time, you get them, they're there, and they love you, and they play forever.
That's very true. Speaking of different systems, you have one, specifically.
A couple.
A couple.
Yay!
But you have one that's as a 2nd edition right now, as you mentioned earlier. You showed us that book. It's Outbreak Undead. You want to give us just a brief synopsis on what Outbreak is?
Yeah, so Outbreak Undead is the zombie survival simulation RPG, and it allows you to accurately simulate any kind of zombie apocalypse scenario under any circumstances you want, with any kind of zombies that you want, to the degree of realism that if you take a 40-question personality test on our website, it'll pop out your core stats if you want to play yourself as a character. So the 2nd edition has done a huge amount in order to kind of break up the game into a different stages of rules for you to consume based on how realistic you want your game. So if you want just kind of pew pew run and gun, zombie drop in action, then we have what's called arcade mode, and every single rule in arcade mode is highlighted with green as far as the layout of the book goes, and those are essentially like, these are the rules that you need to know in order to play the game. But you want a little more realism and you want to add a little more depth to your games, and you can read the yellow rules, which are the Weekend Warrior ones, and those will give you a little more insight on how the game can really function in a realistic, like the environment and the world is against you kind of odds. And then you want to get even more hardcore, you read the red rules, which are the survivalist rules, and those are literally your calorie-counting survivalists who want to know how much you need in order to survive before you start getting exhaustion dice and die from starvation.
You gonna die.
I kid you not, there's a kcal chart for red rules. So, yeah. showing like what's your average BMI. Here's how many calories you
shit.
need in a day. This is what essentially you need. This is how much you'll need to burn before you start getting exhaustion. Yeah. So it's like that.
And there are people. What I do like about that game, about second edition, from what we've seen, is that there is that level of difficulty to go with. So if you really just want to play that arcade game, that kind of Walking Dead style, shoot them in the face with like an eye that's blind, but you're still shooting, you can do that. But if you want that really gory, crunchy, I'm probably gonna die, let's give it a shot, that's also there. And
that's also there. Yeah.
Yeah. First edition was phenomenal at that. We talked about it earlier. We came to your booth. You sold us on this $60 book.
Yeah. Now it's $45.
Yay!
Fantastic.
Did I say that right, or is it 45? Yes. Yeah, it's $45. Yay!
But you sold us on that book a few years ago. When my wife and I were super excited about it because The Walking Dead had really was just kicked off at the time. And we just really consumed it, and our friends loved it. They loved the personality test.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
And my wife and I are both military, so like we pretty much breezed through the game.
Yeah, they loved it.
That's great. It really does honors practical experience a lot. And there's Gestalt has been expanded on a lot more in second edition. So Gestalt is essentially now you have a dice pool that is essentially every year that you've been on this planet. So you have a dice pool of practical experience, so to speak, and every single time you want to basically appeal that you have practical experience in something, you basically are bidding dice from that pool to better that stat. So by bidding those dice, you're putting permanent stat increases to your stat line. And this idea kind of came out later after first edition came out, but we really baked it into second edition's system. Is the idea that, if you say that, you have practical experience in specific skills such as like throwing, but maybe it wasn't enough that you could say that I'm an athlete, then you can take those dice and roll up permanent stat bonuses. And all it does is reduce your pool. It reduces your practical experience pool because you've made a choice to apply that. But it's great because you can really specialize with Gestalt in a very cool way. So it's not just kind of everyone is crunchy zombie food.
Well, it was an interesting leveling mechanic for the game. It was something really different to where maybe we didn't play the game for a couple of years and we'd come back and like, oh hell, I'm like 34 now, so I got like a couple more dice.
Well, and also in the game too, if you are playing a long-term game, and we're learning this in Real Life Frontier, if you are playing a long-term game, the easy way to do it now is you basically can turn in survival points in order to accumulate Gestalt.
Yes.
So the idea being that in a world in which everything around you is difficult. And in Real Life Frontier, like character creation took place 17 years after day 0. So those players that when they were making those characters had a huge pool of practical experience to apply from, because not only did they do their characters' age, but because, we are assuming that they have lived 17 years in a world that has tried to kill them. They got bonus Gestalt for basically existing post-Outbreak. For as long as they've had. So a lot of their stats were very good because they've had to live. Sure. They have shown that they have survived that long. And it's just cool to kind of like not have an experience points based mechanic.
Yes.
To reward people.
I know when we ran the campaign, you released a very small GM supplement a few years after the original book, and that talked about the risk. And
risk yes. Risk and survival points.
Yes, survival
points.
points.
Spend risks to do hazards.
And we started giving Gestalt dice as part of leveling up, and it worked out fantastically. So what I want to know is where did you get the idea for Outbreak Undead? I mean, was it the zombie craze at the time, or?
Yeah. So at the time we were all in college, and a lot of us were very, very excited. Hi. Yeah, I know, right? Dating myself. But the zombie craze was kind of like, it was there again, but explicitly we were all super fans of Max Brooks's like Zombie Survival Guide, which had just come out, and we were all reading it, and we had all talked about our survival plans, and we had all like there's whole student groups put together just to talk about zombie outbreaks and things like that. And my buddy, my fraternity partner, Chris De La Rosa, he was like, well, we've been playing in his D&D group for a while, and he had mentioned, well, I've got this zombie game that I've been working on. If you want to do something other than D&D, and we're like, hell yeah, zombie thing, let's do it. We played it, and we had so much fun with it, and we loved it, what he was doing. And we learned later that he was basically just for fun. He was such a Resident Evil fan that he was like, I just want to see about writing a Resident Evil RPG.
Sweet. Just
for shits and giggles. And we loved it. And I think me and my buddy Rob at the time, still my friend, not just at the time, but still my friend. But we were talking with Chris, and we were like, man, we should make this. Like, no one's doing this right now. Like, this is a really unique thing. And we had Googled, a couple other zombie RPGs that were out, hadn't put out anything in a long time.
Right.
And the few that had put out there were mostly like expansions on mechanics that were already created. They weren't like their own systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, this is a good time. And I think what happened is we all started working on it together. We all started having fun. We all started developing it. And I think at one point I said, okay, guys, I put a deposit down for a booth at Gen Con. So now we have to have a book by Gen Con. So
get to work.
And that was what happened. We made a deadline for ourselves, and the book barely arrived on time. And we made it, and we went out there, and I did everything I could to get us as much presence in that. It was the first year that Entrepreneur's Alley was a thing at Gen Con, and I think that was 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2011 was the first time Entrepreneur's Alley was a thing, and we just did it 7 years ago. This will be my 8th Gen Con. Oof.
Right?
So, I know some people will go there and be like, you whippersnapper, I've been doing it for 30 years. Like, yeah. That's off to you.
I absolutely know what you're talking about. You are actually our deadline. I told them because we were bullshitting one day, like, oh man, we should do a YouTube thing. And I was like, well, I've met some people, let me see what I can do. And I reached out to you and just went ahead and set that date. And
yeah, cool. Good.
I was like, all right, guys, now we actually have to do this shit because we have an interview with Ivan Van Norman in July, or June. So let's do it.
It helps.
It does. Yeah.
It truly, honestly helps because otherwise you will just come up with another excuse.
Yeah.
And I was really worried about that when we were putting it. And now, we're in the 2nd edition, and Chris and I have been in business and publishing for the last 8 years.
It's incredible. So how, briefly, I suppose, how do you there's a lot of people out there trying to, they're writing products, they're producing products, and they're throwing them on Kickstarter, and they're trying to be found. What do you think is probably the best tip or two that you could probably give them that really helped your products?
Decide what your goal is with your product. Do you just want to get the game out there? Do you want to become a full-time developer? Do you want to be a publishing house? It just depends on what you want to do with the game. You got to look a little long-term. Right. Because if your goal is just to get the game out there may be other solutions rather than just throwing it up on Kickstarter for you. Because I can tell you, if you have a whiz-bang success and you just put the game out there, but you don't make an LLC to kind of protect yourself for financial liability around the money that you make, all that's going to count towards your income, and you're going to have a bad day come tax season. At the same time, if you are like, man, I really want to do this, and then if it succeeds, I want to move forward, or at least want to be open to the idea of success. You don't have to have a 5-year plan going into your first product, but you need to be willing to go open for success, file a business, get your tax ID number, open a bank account only for the funds that are going to be made for the game, all of these things that come with owning a business. Because once you put a Kickstarter out, you now are a business owner, and you now have a liability to whoever backed it in order to deliver. And you essentially are no longer allowed to say, well, I'm an amateur hobbyist now. You are now a professional who has to deliver on your product.
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. It's just know what your goals are and go for it. Or if you're not interested in all that stuff, then find someone who's willing to work with you in order to do it. Like go to a publisher and say, here's my game. Here's what I want to do with it. And, if they say no, go find another one, make adjustments and keep going until your game is out there. Yep. So that's the key one. Other than that, then as much as you enjoy working on your game, please go and look at all the different small business entrepreneur blogs and things that you need to do in order to write and make sure that you do a lot of research on how you want to promote your Kickstarter, because it's very, very common nowadays to fire and forget, like just put up your project and hope that that the zeitgeist catches it and then whims across it, but that just is not the case anymore.
Not how any of this works.
Very, very, very formulaic, direct system that works. Yes.
It's like YouTube. I thought all I had to do was this. And like, we'll just make some videos on my phone. Like I'll go to sleep and I'll wake up. It'll be great.
And there'll be views. Look at all those views.
If you do your research and you see what's really involved in whatever industry you're trying to get into, you will find it's not as easy as you thought.
Surprise, surprise. Nothing's easy. Hello.
Damn it.
Yeah. So that's really just what it comes down to. It's just passion. Passion is rewarded with research and passion will often find you success. Yeah. So if you're passionate about something and you come in with research and you gain some practical experience, at least your mistakes will be mitigated, hopefully, when you find success in your project. So,
So just a lame question, like a normal question. What games are you currently playing?
Oh man. Well,
what's behind you back there in the stack?
Everything right now. I just got Consenticle in. Did you hear about this game?
That.
Did you hear about Consenticle?
Yes.
I just got it in today. I'm so excited.
I showed that to my wife and I was like, "This game looks awfully funny." Like,
they're not going to put this out. This is
for
Kickstarter. No, they're just because it's about consensual, intimate relationships with a tentacle monster.
It's tentacle porn. Yes, it's a tentacle porn board game. Like, it sounded hilarious.
But it's
consensual.
Yes. But that's the thing. It's like and it's a 2-player game, so I'm super excited. Me and my girlfriend, we like to do beer and board games, so we like to go to our favorite pubs and play 2-player games. So I'm really looking forward to busting this out at some weird place, drinking beer and playing Consenticle.
You want to play a game tonight? No, I just brought one.
But yeah, I understand why they're not putting it onto the market. But I'm just so happy I have a copy. What else are we playing? We're playing a bunch of things right now. We're play testing our Hunter's first board game on Friday. Yeah, so I got the prototype tokens. Let's see. Oh, I have so many things next to me to show you. It's insane. They're just
it's almost like you planned it.
So I've got a bag of wooden hexes for that play test on Friday.
Are you able to share what that board game is about?
I'll wait until it's a little farther along. But it's an abstract board game. Okay. But it's it'll be nice. I've got Junk Art waiting for me to play. I've got Fox in the Forest. Those are a couple Renegade games. Renegade, since we just went to a co-publishing agreement with Renegade, I have a lot of Renegade games now. So, but we also are huge fans of Terraforming Mars. What else is over there? I'll just give you a little peek at the.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. But there's also the cabinets of shame, the ones that we have not yet gotten to yet. But there's
I've got a couple of them.
There's a lot. Like I'm dying to play Fury of Dracula again. I'm a sucker for hidden movement games. So like Hunt for the Ring, Spectre Ops, Fury of Dracula. Those are all games that I really love.
Nice. So like a deception kind of game. Is that
no,
really
but
more
it's
your
hidden
stuff?
movement. Deception. I mean, deception, yes, but it's not deception in like a smirk and dagger type of game where it's like GQs or Secret Hitler or like those kind of bluffing deception
Sure.
games that are so common for party games. Let's see. My toddler, my 3-year-old, loves his Haba board games. I don't know if you're familiar with Haba, but Haba is like the German publisher that makes kids for literally 2-year-olds.
Okay.
So I've been playing a lot of My First Orchard, as well as Unicorn Glitter Luck Cloud
Ooh.
Crystals.
Very nice.
He loves that game. It's so cute. He likes to roll the dice and pick up the little crystals. So it's been a little bit of back and forth. He has his baby board games, and then he wants to play daddy board games all the time. But I tell him that he needs to get older before he plays daddy board games.
And that's probably one of the best parts with the kids is like they're growing older. You get to play, kind of bring them into their hobby. Like my daughter, she'd come in when we play D&D, and as soon as she could walk, she'd
Look up.
get on the table and try to figure out what's going on and grab dice. And
he loves dice. Phoenix is just a sucker for dice. I'm certain your daughter is too.
Yep.
So just likes to
Pretty
roll
colors, give me
them.
that.
Yep. And I think one of the things that someone gave me some really good advice one time. I forgot who they were. Bless them, though. They mentioned that if you want your kids to get involved when they're a little older, is you make their character into kind of like a familiar that they can play. Real simple concept.
Oh, okay.
You're a dragon. You're a unicorn. You're a fairy. And if they come and do a little thing, like a little dance or say a little special phrase, then your character gets like a buff.
Nice.
Or like a bonus, and then the kid feels like they did something,
Right.
And then like if No Thank You Evil has taught me anything, it's that like depending on how old the kid is, they can deal with more complex concepts. Like if they're 6, they understand what being a giant is, and if they are 8, they probably understand a sad giant, And if they're 12, they probably understand a sad giant with a vengeance, So it's just about layers of what they can get into it. So.
The moms actually just reviewed No Thank You Evil a couple days ago. Not to plug our own stuff on our own channel, but I guess it is our own channel. The wives and the moms, they're starting at this thing called We Wednesdays, where they're going with the kids reviewing children's games. So it's
Awesome.
really targeting more at parents that aren't necessarily gamers. So it's not for us. It's for the normies, right? The people that Here's the reasons why you should teach your kids gaming.
Haba. Show her all the Haba games.
Sure, all the Haba games.
So,
She's done a lot of research. I'm sure that there's probably some coming. We started with a game called Tall Tales, which is just a bag full of little pieces, and they just pull them out and they tell a story. And so
that's great.
That imagination, that story building kind of stuff, and
That's perfect. Does she have a copy of the ABCs of RPGs yet?
I don't think so.
Well, let me know. I'll send you one. Yeah, on top of all of this, I wrote a children's book. So
You wrote a children's book.
Oh man.
yeah, called the ABCs of RPGs. So
I think I have ABCs of Dungeons or something like that. The dictionary.
a little different. This is literally a 24-page children's book where it's like A is for adventure, may you always be on one. B is for book, the source of all of our fun. C is for creatures of all shapes and size. D is for dice. Can you count all the sides? Like it is literally a children's book.
That's awesome.
So,
Very cool.
and as long as we're plugging kids stuff, if you check out Nerds with Kids, which is another YouTube channel that Trisha Hirschberger and Lasercorn and I do, it's literally just us bringing our kids to Trisha's house usually, and we just do a podcast where we talk about being nerds with kids.
Sweet.
And it's on the tubers along with everything else. So but that's great. I'm glad that she's spreading the love of what it is to be a parent and be a hobbyist, and that there are plenty of benefits to introducing games to your kids.
Yeah, especially today, just getting them kind of away from that and, re-embracing that imagination.
Yep.
And it's, we had Legos, but now they have Minecraft, which admittedly is cooler. But
Germany, man, Germany knows that. Then Haba's based out of Germany. board gaming culture is rooted in there, where it is a family activity and it's something that they all sit down and do, and it's not a hobbyist and normies. Everybody does board gaming in Germany. That's why Essenspiel is so huge, and why you won't see a lot of a lot of the North American hobbyists who are around in there. Mostly just families walking around picking up games.
Nice.
That's
really cool.
Yeah. Yep.
We're getting there. I mean, we are slowly getting there. Well, hey, before we go, do you have anything that you want to plug that's coming out? Any projects you're working on? Anything you want to?
Nothing I can announce yet, which is always the tough part. Yeah, there's a bunch going on, but nothing I can really talk about yet, unfortunately. So if you have an opportunity, you should check out Sagas of Sundry, and we are live. It's on projectalpha.com, which is an SVOD platform, just like Netflix or Hulu or a lot of the other streaming services, but it does have a 90-day free trial with the code Frontier, so you can binge watch all of it without having to pay a dime. It's really good. That platform was very generous in basically giving me a platform in which to put out these shows, which are now becoming kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. Stream of Many Eyes, which is on VOD. If you want to check out that chaotic mess of awesome. Check out Outbreak Undead, 2nd edition. It's for pre-order now on renegadegames.com.
Definitely.
As well as Kids on Bikes. All of that should be showcasing at Gen Con. So if you're going to be attending Gen Con, we're going to have a whole bunch of cool stuff at the Renegade headquarters area, in which Hunters is just going to be showing off a bunch of cool things. So, and I think I'm going to get a game. I'm going to talk to a couple people here soon about getting a game up soon, because it's been a while since I've run anything, and I don't really have any stuff lined up until August as far as running games go. So I think now is probably a good time to start something fun.
It's always a good time to start something fun.
Yeah. But thank you so much for your time and taking.
Thank you for yours. I appreciate it.
No worries. I'm here. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ivan, for being on the show. And you know what? We will probably see you at Gen Con, if not before then.
Yeah, come hang out.
Yeah, take it easy, bud.
Have a good one.
Right. Bye.
Hey, thank you again, Ivan, for joining us on the show. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions for Ivan or us, go ahead and let us know down in the underbits below. Again, there's those like and those share buttons. Go ahead and let your friends know that we exist, that we're here, and that we're making video content for you and other GMs out there. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button too if you'd like to see more of us. Have a good week.